Hi, welcome back to my channel. So, what do you know about Nathan up to this point in the story? Apart from he's a mean, naughty kid in school, what else can you tell me about him? Where does he live? Why is he so mean? We're not sure. In this video, we're going to gather some more information on Nathan so that Marc can decide whether or not he wants to fight him. That's right. It's important to know because if we don't know who we are fighting against, how do we know what our options are? You don't want to miss this week's story, so let's dive into the world of Nathan. Come on in. Chapter 15, A Different World. I learned some things today that I never thought about before, and I think they will make me a better person. Uncle Jake told me we were going on a mission, and he was going to pick me up after camp. When I got out of camp, he was standing on the street across from the rec center. He motioned me over, and I walked toward him. When I got close to him, he asked, without pointing, "Which kid is Nathan?" I looked back toward the rec center and saw Nathan. There he is, over there. You have to be more specific. What color shirt? What color pants? Where is he standing? Okay, he's wearing a black t-shirt and black jeans, and he has black hair. He's standing by the flagpole. Got him. Okay, track him. We're walking down the street. With that, Uncle Jake and I walked down to the end of the street and took a left. Then he sat down on a bench on the sidewalk and told me to have a seat too. What are we doing? I asked Uncle Jake. Some more reconnaissance. Another word for gathering intelligence and surveillance. We are going to watch Nathan and learn some more about him. Keep an eye on him. Okay, I told Uncle Jake. I wasn't sure why we needed to do this, but it seemed like a pretty cool thing. So we sat and watched and watched and watched some more. And Nathan stayed there, hanging around the flagpole while other kids got picked up and jumped on their bikes and went home. After a while, the last kid and even all the camp counselors left. Once everyone was gone, Nathan hung around for a while on his own. Then finally, he walked down the streets, heading toward town. As he walked, it didn't even seem like he was going anywhere. We stood up and walked pretty far behind him so he wouldn't notice us, but we could still see him. He would stop and look at things. He would pick things up off the ground, look at them for a while, and then either put them in his pocket or toss them back on the ground. He would do little tricks or stunts on benches or curbs or stairs, jumping on them and off them or over them, doing spins or kicks or waving his arms. Sometimes he would stop in front of houses and just look at them for a while. We would stop every so often to hide behind something so Nathan wouldn't see us. Then, every time Nathan would almost leave our vision, Uncle Jake would start walking again. We would get a little closer, then stop somewhere behind him, or maybe duck inside a side street where we would still see him. After a while, Nathan finally seemed to get where he was going, the parking lot of the Quickie Mart store. When Nathan got there, he went over to a little tree, hung the plastic bag that he had been carrying in the branches, and sat down on the curb, leaning up against a tree trunk. It seemed like he had done this before. When some people would walk in and out of the store, Nathan would say hi to them, like he knew them. One of the people went in the store, and when they came back out, they gave Nathan a hot dog. Another person that Nathan talked to for a minute came out of the store and handed Nathan a can of soda. Other people just said hi to him and then carried on. Occasionally, people would hand him empty cans and bottles that they had in their cars. It was very strange. Nathan stayed there for a long time, sitting on the curb. He folded up the wrapper of his hot dog about 10 different ways. Once he finished the can of soda, he tore off part of the hot dog wrapper, made it into a little ball, and then started trying to throw it into the can, like a miniature game of basketball. Every time he scored, he made a new little ball and started throwing that one too. When people handed him cans and plastic bottles, he would crush them and put them into his plastic bag, hanging them in a tree. Finally, after a pretty long time, Nathan grabbed his bag, waved to the store cashier through the window, and walked down the street. We followed him once again. This time, he stopped at a grocery store. He went in with a bag packed full of bottles and cans and walked back out a few minutes later with the bag empty. He just turned in those cans for recycling. He might have made $1 or $2, Uncle Jake said. Once he was done turning in his recycling, he looked through the garbage cans at the grocery store and found a few more bottles. He also went and talked to some of the people who pulled up in cars. We couldn't hear him because we were standing in a store across the street, but he must have been asking for cans and bottles because sometimes people would give them to him. After he gathered up some more cans and bottles, he went back into the grocery store. This time he came out with a little ready-made sandwich that he ate while sitting on a bench. Looks like he has to work to get this food, Uncle Jake said. It sure did. Once Nathan finished his sandwich, he was on the move once more. Again, it didn't seem like he was heading anywhere fast. He took his time, stopping and fidgeting with things, looking at things, picking things up and tossing them. He walked for a pretty long ways, through downtown and past all the stores, some of which he went into. Then he walked out to the other side of town and over the railroad tracks to where there weren't houses anymore, but warehouses and little rundown stores and places where there were car repair shops and welding shops. Some of the places looked pretty rough. We continued to follow Nathan from a couple of blocks away. Nathan would stop by some of the shops. I could tell he must do this every day because the people in the shops recognized him and said hi. Sometimes he would come out of the shops carrying a half-empty bag of potato chips or maybe a part of a cookie. Well, now we know where Nathan gets his meals, Uncle Jake said. I guess so, I replied, but I hadn't really thought about that. In fact, in my mind, it seemed kind of cool that he was getting all this food from people. But when Uncle Jake said that, I realized that it wasn't cool at all. This is where Nathan had to get his food. Finally, Nathan got to a building that he stopped in front of. The building was made of brick, but it was really run down. Outside was a sign that said, Lamb's Metal Works. There was a door off the side of that. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. He opened the door and disappeared inside. A few seconds later, we saw a light come on upstairs. It was pretty obvious that he was home alone. Come on, Mark, let's go, Uncle Jake said as he motioned with his head to start walking away and back toward the Red Center. By this time, it was really late and really dark. It was definitely past my bedtime. Seems like his life is a lot different than yours, doesn't it? He asked. Yes, Uncle Jake, it sure does. What kind of kid do you think you would be if that was your life? Do you think you would be as nice as you are? Do you think you would be a little jealous of other kids with their nice snacks packed for them every day and the nice houses they live in? Probably, Uncle Jake, I told him. He was right. It almost seems like Nathan lives in a totally different world than me. That's because he does live in a totally different world than you. Now, do you think that if you lived in that world where you were alone most of the time and basically begging for food, do you think you might have a hard time relating to kids that have everything given to them? Do you think you might even be mean to them? I thought about that for a second. Just because he doesn't have nice food doesn't give him the right to be mean to people, I told Uncle Jake. I didn't say that it gave him the right, replied Uncle Jake. but do you see how it could happen? Do you understand maybe why Nathan might act the way he does? Uncle Jake was right. Nathan's life seemed a lot tougher than mine. And while I didn't think that gave him the right to be mean, I could see how it might make him mean, especially to kids who seemed so spoiled in comparison to him. Like me. I do understand it, Uncle Jake, I said. Okay, so now, instead of wanting to fight Nathan, maybe you should think about how you can help him, how you can change him for the better, how you can lead him. Fighting him would be the simple thing to do. It would be the easy path. Actually, helping him would be tougher, but it would be the right thing to do. That's what warriors do. We do the right thing, even if it is harder. But how can I help him? I can't change his life. You don't have to change his life, but maybe you can point him in the right direction. Uncle Jake got quiet for a minute as we finally turned down the street to our house. Remember what you were like before you got on the warrior path? Before you became a warrior kid? Yes, I was a wimp. Okay, well, guess what? The warrior path doesn't only help wimpy kids. It can help any kids, even kids like Nathan. He could use discipline and focus in his life. It would only make his life and him better, which would also make him nicer. Uncle Jake was right again, but there was one big problem. That all sounds great, Uncle Jake, but here is the big question. How? How am I supposed to do this? I can't make him change. I can't force him to be a different person. You're right, Mark. You can't. You can't force people to change. You can't force people to be different. That doesn't work. So what am I supposed to do? I asked Uncle Jake. There is only one way. You have to lead. With that, we quietly went into the house without saying a word so we wouldn't wake my mom up. So that's it, I thought, as I lay in bed. I have to lead. Number 1. What special mission did Uncle Jake have in mind that he wanted to do with Mark after camp in this chapter? That's right, Uncle Jake took Mark to gather some more intelligence on Nathan. Number 2, what is another word for gathering intelligence used by Uncle Jake in this chapter? The word is reconnaissance. Number 3, what did Mark and Uncle Jake see Nathan doing at the Quickie Mart store? Yes, they saw Nathan saying hi to people in and out of the store, and some people gave him a hot dog, some gave him a can of soda, and some gave him empty cans or bottles. Number 4, what would Nathan do to the empty cans or bottles? He would crush them and put them into his plastic bag. Number 5, where did Nathan go after leaving the store? That's right, he went to the grocery store and turned in those cans for recycling. Number 6, what do Nathan usually get to eat? Yeah, he usually eats stuff that was given by strangers. Sometimes he would eat others' leftovers, like a half-empty bag of potato chips or a part of a cookie. Last question. Instead of fighting Nathan, what did Uncle Jake advise Mark to do instead? Exactly. Uncle Jake advised Mark to help him, to change him for the better, to lead him. So, did you learn anything new about Nathan? Were you surprised? If you were Mark, as a warrior kid, you only do the right thing, even though it's harder. What would you do to help Nathan? How would you lead? Comment down below and let's see what ideas you come up with. If you like this series, make sure you smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. Apparently, it will help with the YouTube algorithm to push it out to more people who might enjoy this video. I'll very much appreciate that, and thank you in advance. Moving on, with this newly found knowledge about Nathan, Marc has certainly changed his impression on him. Get ready for next week when Nathan tries to call Marc names again. It's going to be a whole new ballgame. You won't want to miss this. Stay tuned for next week's Warrior Kid Read Aloud. Until then, take care. Bye for now.